fairyland. It's Tea with Tamara.
Care Bear Stare.
Good morning, everyone. Super excited to be here today. We may get a little emotional, or I may get a little emotional is really what's going to happen. I love that we're getting a little closer to fall because I like wearable blankets. And I just wanted to actually show you my new mug for Tea with Tamara because I don't always get an opportunity to actually talk about mugs. But look at this, it's a cup full of courage. And inside it says, she believed that she could, so she did. Which is an incredible little thing that I bought for myself. Good morning, Kitty. When I was in Portsmouth, New Hampshire this past weekend, which is what I kind of want to talk about. And so this week's Tea with Tamara is going to get a little personal story that is attached to it because something happened this past weekend, a great lesson for me. And I wanted to share it with you because we never know where the lessons and the miracles are going to come from. But the most important thing that we can do is open ourselves up to being fully present to receive them when they are here. So I was honored to go to a mastermind this past weekend with Amber Lillystrom, which I had signed up for, because we all need somebody to hold space for us to do the internal work that we need to do to rise into the next level of ourselves, including me. Even as an energy worker, I can't do my own work on myself. And that's like it took me a while to really fully understand that that wasn't something that I needed to beat myself up over because it's a true story. Even as a personal trainer, having a trainer was a really amazing thing. And so here in this beautiful space, I mean, I walked in on the Friday, you guys, I saw Amber Lillystrom and I started to cry. And for everybody who knows me and works with me and does that same thing to me, you can understand the honoring that I felt that there was a sacred container in a space in which that I could be free enough and own that part of me that needed to be let go over the weekend. And Amber had an incredible guest get up and speak on the Friday, and her name is Karen Kenny. And I don't know if you have ever heard of her. I highly suggest that you find her, you look her up. It's Kenny, Kenney. And so at the very end of Friday, she gets up and she's doing speaking, and I'm watching her, guys, and I'm watching her, and I'm just like, holy fuck. She's speaking my language. Like, she is speaking the language that I love, the language that I was put on this earth to use, to be in the space of helping people with A Course in Miracles and getting them like a spiritual coach into themselves so that they can stand fully in their light. And I was like, geez, I want to be just like Karen Kenny when I grew up, but not Karen Kenny. That is not what I'm trying to say. But in that space of no fucks given, that I can stand unapologetically in front of a crowd of people and speak in the language that is A Course in Miracles and is of energy and all of these things. So I'm just watching her and I'm like, wow, this is so good. Like, I just feel so honored to be in her space right now. And so at the end, she's like, let's take some questions. Good morning, Renee. Let's take some questions and things like that. So the biggest thing that I had the hardest part admitting and owning up to and being a part of in my own self was owning my relationship to God. I know it's not going to make sense to anyone else, but I'm going to explain to you the reason why this is for a second. And then I'm going to tell you the story that's going to make me cry. I can already feel it building, right? So I raise my hand at the end and I'm like, Karen Kenny. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, I'm petrified to come out of the God closet. I'm just absolutely petrified to come out of the God closet. And she's like, why? Like, what is it about, God that you're so scared of? I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I'm not going to fit in. And, there's like this judgment for me if I come out of the closet here. And she's like, honey, and we're having this conversation. And then she says the thing to me, like the thing, and you never know when the thing is going to come, but you need to be present for the thing. Now imagine this is a room where there's 20 something other incredibly amazing women, my mentors over there, and like all of this stuff. And Karen Kenny looks at me and she's holding on to my shoulders and she says, honey, who are you judging? And you have all these eyes on you and you're petrified and you're in the spotlight and you're like, I don't know. I don't think I'm judging anyone, right? Like, 'cause you don't want to be the person who's the judging person in the room, but you know that we all judge on some level or another, right? And so I said, I think I let judgment pass through me. I think I do. And she's like, honey, if you are judging yourself, you are judging others. And it was like a weight hit me. You know that feeling when it just like right to the heart, you're just like, shit. So I went home to my hotel room and my husband on Friday, and I just kind of let that sink in a little bit. And I was like, okay, I need to get a little deeper here. I need to know where this judgment is coming from, because I don't want to be that person anymore. And this is the gift in itself, is when we can, I always say awareness is the open book to easy, right? And so as soon as we get that sensation or that feeling directly in front of us that it's right here, then we're almost there. We can work through anything once we know it, once we can see it, right? And then we can let it go out into the universe to be transmuted, which is such a gift. So the next day I go in on Saturday, and there's a wonderful woman, Martha, who's doing some voice work with us, and she has us in a sacred circle, and we've done some work together as a group, and she's like, okay, I'm going to close your eyes, and I want spirit to come to you in whatever way that spirit is meant to come to you. And I was like, okay. And so I closed my eyes, and for the first time in my life, I saw Jesus right there in front of me, surrounded by light. And I was like, oh, this is interesting, right? Because I just decided to come out of the God closet the day before, and now I'm being presented with Jesus Christ. And I was like, wow, that's big for me. Like, that's big. And so I'm grateful. I'm sitting in the grateful space. And, she's saying the meditation, and I couldn't tell you what she's saying, but my thought was, God, show me the place in which I started judging. And here's the thing, we have the opportunity to ask for exactly what it is that we are looking to receive the answer for. And this is something that I don't think we take advantage of enough. And so immediately, and here's where it's like a very, very hard thing for me to own up to here. Here's the space in which I was transported to being in my townhouse at 10 years old, sitting on my bed, surrounded by my stuffies. I had my pound puppy and my popple and my real baby and all of these other stuffed animals. And I remember feeling so connected to these stuffies, like just so utterly connected. And I was like, okay, is this the place I started to judge myself? And it was in that moment that I knew exactly what had happened, because as my 10-year-old self, my mom suffered from depression, and my grandmother would come over every weekend, and she is a loving individual. She just has a bit of a biting tongue at times. And so she came in, and it was always, what are you guys girls are doing? Like, you're not doing enough. You need to start doing this, right? And it was always kind of felt to me like an attack on me as a human being. And at that 10-year-old self, it was like, nothing I do is good enough for Nanny, right? And then I had a really sad mom, and I used to spend my nights going into her bedroom and trying to bring her joy. Like, I put on a one-man show every single night. I mean, she tried to get me to go to bed, but I just wanted my mom to wake up so happy the next day. And I figured if I just gave a little more, if I just showed up a little bigger the night before, then when she opened her eyes, she would be happier. But it didn't happen. And so my 10-year-old self felt like she was failing, and she was judging herself on her inability to bring her mom the joy that she required. And she was holding on to the judgment of feeling like she couldn't do enough around the house or keep it clean or save her mother from her grandmother. And she had a sister who was in grade 8, and I was a pesky little younger sister. Like, I read her diary. Like, I was a nuisance in a way, right? But of course she didn't. No older sister wants to hang out with their little sister who is 10 and she's 13. And so I was taking my sister's normal teenage, my younger sister, and I was judging myself from that as well. And it was in this moment, truly and completely, that I felt so alone and so unloved, and started to really do the judgment cycle on myself. And so at the end of the meditation, let me just tell you, I went to that 10-year-old self, and I laid on the bed, and all she did was want to curl up with me and snuggle, because she just wanted to feel that love, that love, the unconditional love. And it was real, and it was human, and it wasn't just one of those stuffed animals, right? And so we laid there together And this is the piece, guys. Like, of course, it's still emotional because I'm still releasing it, but are you willing to go this deep to find the reasons and the answers? Because this is where it's at, man. It doesn't, maybe it doesn't look like it. I'm trying to pretty cry here, but it might not be working. But this feels really good, and you might not think it does, but it does, because every time I tell this story and every time I let a little bit more of it out, it releases more and more. And so here I am, and we're in this meditation, and we're lying on the bed, and we're hugging, and we're snuggling, and it's this beautiful, beautiful experience. And, you know, Martha is bringing us to this space of light in the room, and I'm holding on to little hand, lying flat on our backs like you would lying on a bed, like in the ground, looking up at the stars. And I just kept saying to my little self, this is your light. You are a daughter here of God, of spirit, of the universe. This light is for you. Let it fill you. Let it be, like, hold space for that, because we don't judge ourselves. We are of the light. And, you know, we took the light to the city, and we took the light around the world. And the whole time I was holding her hand and saying, you are the daughter of God, and you are this light, and you are here to spread this light to all. And it was a really beautiful experience. Right? So I was lucky of who I was sitting next to. Like, everything had come to this. If Kenny hadn't said that, I wouldn't have been able to get to that space of understanding the judgment that I was holding. And at the end of the meditation, I'd recently watched the movie The Craft, where, you know, the good witch was binding the bad witch. I bind you, Nancy, from doing harm against your others and against yourself and harm against others. And at the end, Jesus Christ's voice was in my head, and he's like, Tamara, I release you from judging yourself and releasing you from judging others, which felt really powerful and really intense and really awesome, right? And so Saturday night, and here's where the miracle, I love you, Sheila, is, right? And Teresa and everybody who's sending me love right now. We did a book exchange, right, on Saturday night. And they wanted to do the book exchange where, you know, you pick a book and then somebody else can steal your book and all of that kind of stuff, which honestly stresses me out, because I'm a non-confronting person. And I'm like, do I really want to, like, take a book from somebody? Because I would never want somebody to take a book. If I picked the book that I wanted, somebody came and took it, I'd be like, man, that sucks, right? So we're not actually playing that game. And I'm watching the books that I had my eye on disappearing out of the pile. And I'm like, oh, right? And so I was number 12, and my number came up, and I'm looking at all the books on the pile. And here's the thing, guys. Here's where you really start to understand the judgment. I had heard some stories about somebody pretty high up in the, you know, self-development industry, Brendon Burchard. And I'd even bought his his high performance habits book. And I'd started to read it, and it's a very masculine energy to me. And I'm like, I don't really like Brendon Burchard, so I'm not going to read it anymore. Full judgment, like, not kidding, right? And so here I am, and I'm looking over all of these books, and there's a Brendon Burchard book there. And I'm like, judgment, Tamara who judges, like, why don't you just pick up this book? Life's Golden Ticket by Brendon Burchard. Now you can see I've actually started to read it, because, guys, this book is a fucking gift. Like, oh my God, I would never have picked that up if I was still in my judgment self and judging something that I didn't even know about, a person I didn't even know, based on a story or something I had heard from somebody else, which is where most of our judgment comes from anyway. Like, it goes like somebody says something to us and we have the opportunity to bunt it away or to absorb it as our own. And I mean, we all do this, and it's nothing to feel guilty or bad or shameful for, but it just is, right? And so here was the miracle in which I had been placed in a judgment about something that I knew nothing about, and now I had the opportunity to change my perception and my reality and how I was actually going to express it. So I can't even begin to tell you how much this book mirrors Life's Golden Ticket, everything that I stand for and everything that I did that weekend, because the book is about going within and finding the imprints in our lives, the themes in our lives that are the reason why we do the things that we do here today, in this moment, in this life, because usually it is a preset program that we put ourselves into an autopilot in, and it begins in our childhood and it keeps on going until one day we realize we can't live in that cycle anymore, and we take the action that's required in order to solve the problem, right? And so this book, if I hadn't been called out on Friday. And I mean with love, like truest of love, because it is universal. If we judge others, we judge it. Like if we're judging ourselves, we're judging others. That's a true statement, right? And something maybe everybody else here will be able to take something from this, right? If that hadn't come up, I wouldn't have gone that deep into the meditation on Saturday and have been given the miracle to go in with no judgment into something so beautiful, right? Because here is the other game changer, is that we all need support, and we all need that love and that help in going into those moments, into those pieces of our pasts, into the events, into the feelings that we are carrying that are still driving our lives today. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so like, if you guys ever need help, there is always a sacred container, whether it is with me or it is with another coach that you feel absolutely connected with, because it is the vibration to vibration match that is the most important, because you need to feel safe enough in the relationship and with the energy exchange that you can open up and bare your soul in a way that you feel safe and protected. And so finding somebody who holds that space for you is critical and crucial to finding the themes that you're still living in order to break and bust through them, so that you can really raise yourself into your higher next level and serve the people that you are here to serve, and shine your light as bright as you possibly can. And so I just want to really honor each and every single one of you today. And thank you for, if you're still here and listen to my whole story, because I'm so grateful that you guys even held space for me to bring that up and share in the way that I did. And so thank you. Thank you. You guys know how very much I love you. And this work is a constant journey. And it is such a gift that the universe gives us, that we have the opportunity to go from the separate state to back into finding our true self, to being in alignment and using that alignment to again center ourselves into service, to shine, and do this for the next person who is standing slightly behind us. And this is the work. This is the miracle. This is the stuff that makes the most impact and difference in your life. So cut away all the noise and the chatter and the things that are not serving you, because we only get today once, and we only get this spin on this earth one time. So stand as true as possible into who you are, and be willing and honoring yourself enough to go in and do this. I love you. You know how much I love you. I'm sending you a Care Bear stare of heart, love, chakra to chakra here with you guys, from my heart to yours. Please have the most incredible Wednesday. Mwah. Now I have to end both Instagram and Facebook.